falcons are this extremely wonderful trans-equatorial migrant which migrate 22,000 kilometers every year.
Elders would say, oh, now it's the season again. Now comes the time for the feathered creatures which darken the skies.
Looked up almost on an instinct, and there on those transmission wires were thousands and thousands of Amur falcons just resting, probably having migrated overnight. The Amur falcon is one of the smaller birds of prey, and Amur falcons are strictly insectivorous. These birds breed in the extremely fertile areas of Eastern Asia, and once they finish breeding and the winter starts coming on, these birds make their extremely long 10,000 plus kilometer journey, and they follow this very interesting route of coming through Northeast India, which is where they're seen in Nagaland, in Assam, in Arunachal Pradesh. They cross India in a couple of days, and what is remarkable is that they make a day and night dash across the Indian Ocean, 4,000 kilometers in 3 to 4 days. And that's where they winter in Africa, Eastern and Southern Africa, and the largest congregations are seen in South Africa. Doyang is a rockfill reservoir, and it's about 10 years old. And we have reason to believe that only after the construction of the dam, and that got filled with water with the reservoir, the Amurs are actually making a stopover. The Amurs have always been migrating through this area, but we think we have enough data to kind of conclude that a stopover has started since the dam was actually built. We suspected there's some amount of hunting going on of the Amurs in Nagaland, which we wanted to actually verify.
The immediate thing was we saw two ladies selling 60 odd Amur falcons, and within an hour's time she finished selling all of them.
We also saw many hunters on the roadside carrying these bunches of birds on either hand, and easily we could see that there were over anything between 100 to 200 birds on each bundle.
We spoke to some hunters down this road, and we asked them if we can accompany them next day to the actual hunting spot. It was kind of, I think, the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. So while Rocco and I sat there in that room and we could already see hundreds of nets lined up on the other side of the shore. We saw more and more Amur falcons being trapped. Like on an average there are about, I guess, 18 plus Amur falcons per net. And just imagine there were about 60 odd hunting groups working at the same time, and each group had about 10 nets at least. So each group was actually catching 200 birds per group. It's about 12 to 14,000 birds per day. And if we assume this mass migration goes on for about 10 days, at the peak migration, it's easily 1,40,000 birds, 1,20,000 birds. So not like small numbers we are saying. That's like 1/10 of world's estimated Amur population. triggered an international outcry. So that was helping us kind of engage with the officials in a positive manner, because they were realizing that while Nagaland has a traditional hunting, this was the limit, and this was really where we draw the line to kind of move to a more hardcore conservation program.
A lot of the people whom we met as we did the survey didn't know the impact that their actions were having on the wildlife or on their environment or on their agricultural practices.
I trained for 2 years because I was unemployed, just sitting like this lamb. So people saw that if I do like this, I will learn something, and I can help my parents. I can help myself also.
We don't know that much importance of these birds, of this wild animal.
One hunter usually earn not less than 30,000
In the season.
in the season. Yeah.
When we realized that this was primarily stemming out of some needs, perhaps, and also largely out of ignorance, the Amur Falcon Education Initiative program began.
Parents from bringing wild the parents have also lost that desire to do it. I mean, the parents
Because we wanted to start what was being practiced in Chizami by the Northeast Network, the concept of the under the canopy, the Eco Club. We are happy that at least 1 year we've been able to be focused on what we've been wanting to do, which is to bring education and to have a special manual on the Amur falcons, to have started our Eco Club.
Amur Falcon Conservation Initiative group like this, you people know, coming to teach us. So it is very important for the benefit of this entire area, entire village.
For these guys, these kids, if we teach them nicely from the beginning, from now, so they can help us in the conservation, so that by children, and when suppose their children are coming, so now their parents also convinced already. So that their children are telling them, hey, don't go there to me, don't shoot. Even if they see, they used to tell their parents. Like that, we will help our family.
At the same time, engaging with the main group, which is the fishermen community, who are the hunters, the trappers of these birds with their nets.
आप लोग किसा ट्रेनिंग देता है, इंटरव्यू देता है और लेसन सिखाता है, वो मान के करने से पहला का माती, पहला का जमाने का माती आ सकता है. इसलिए आप लोग आ तो हम लोग की खुशी है.
It's a long-term monitoring program, not a 1 year program. It's like it has to go on for like 10 years, 15 years, which actually gives you proper management practices to save these species.
Karnataka, a land of diverse landscapes and natural resources. A vast state with fertile lands that grow everything from pulses and spices to grains and coffee. You will also find some of the fastest growing cities in India standing side by side with lush green spaces. And spread across its terrain are these remarkable water bodies that brim with life. Join us on a journey through the wetlands of Karnataka to understand what makes them so special and how they support birds from near and far. It's winter in Karnataka. The weather is pleasant and a sleepy lull envelops the state. Wetlands across the land have been replenished by monsoon rains after a dry summer. Above you, hundreds of migratory birds travel in V formations, heading to their winter homes in search of two fundamental needs, food and warmth. To get here, they use well-set travel paths. These are called flyways. There are 9 flyways across the world that birds use to travel over countries, oceans and continents. India falls within the Central Asian Flyway, a route that extends from the northernmost breeding grounds of Siberia to the wintering grounds of West and South Asia. Take the Blyth's reed warbler, one of the most common visitors to India. While these warblers breed in the coldest parts of Asia and Europe through summer, these red dots show that almost the entire global population of the species migrates to the Indian subcontinent during winter. A large number of the migratory water birds visit wetlands here, seeking food, safety, and ideal feeding conditions. Karnataka, with its varied wetland habitats, is just what these migratory birds are looking for. Along its 320-kilometer coastline, one can observe estuaries where the rivers of Karnataka meet the sea. The wetlands here hold salt water from the sea and fresh water from the rivers. There is plenty for birds to eat, making this the perfect habitat for migratory birds who have a taste for salt water and fresh seafood. inland wetlands. For centuries, the people of Karnataka have been damming its natural streams, rivers, and low-lying areas. Today, the 7 river basins of the state feed 13 major reservoirs. Karnataka also has the largest number of man-made tanks that are used for irrigation and domestic purposes. These tanks can be visualized as shallow basins with concentric zones of varying water depths. Each of these zones is used by different groups of birds. The deep waters are usually used by birds like ducks, geese, and cormorants, while the shallow waters are used by a whole range of birds like herons, egrets, storks, and other waders. What part of these wetlands the birds settle in depends on the length of their legs, the shape and size of their beaks, how big or small they are, and what they feed on. The waders prefer to probe around the shallow waters. They masterfully navigate the soggy land looking for a meal. These greater flamingos are stomping around to stir up the bottom and filter feed on small juicy shrimps, algae, mollusks, tiny insect larvae, and other microscopic organisms that thrive in these waters. As the gradient increases, so does the depth. The red-crested pochard will dive and disappear underwater, looking for food. But dabblers are far more delicate in their search. Here are northern pintails, sticking their tails up, tipping their heads underwater to nibble on their meal. These birds have become an intrinsic part of Karnataka's wetlands. This is Magadi, a village in North Karnataka. The small tank here is important to the lives of the villagers and the birds. Every winter, thousands of bar-headed geese visit this quaint village. In some years, there are more than 7,000 that congregate at this lake. They are one of the highest flying birds, traveling over the tallest peaks of the Himalayas to come to their wintering grounds. What brings them to Magadi are the large fields of crops. At the crack of dawn, the geese arrive at the fields to feast on groundnut, tender shoots of wheatgrass, and Bengal gram. They time their visits to these fields such that there are no farmers around. Today, though, they have an unusual companion. A lone blackbuck tries to make his way into the gaggle of geese, hoping for some feeding space. The geese, outnumbering him, are not very interested in the blackbuck's cause. He thinks of a game to make them change their mind. The geese accommodate the game, but refuse to budge. Defeated, the blackbuck moves on. The geese have clearly won this round. It's time to go back now. immediately. At Magadi, these birds are quite confiding, as they don't feel threatened. Around them are men and women going about their business. No bird seems particularly ruffled by human presence. Their ability to coexist has helped sustain the birds' migration. Among the geese is Y03. He was marked with a green collar in central Mongolia. This lightweight collar helps track his journey from Mongolia over the Himalayas before he reaches Magadi Lake. There are several others like him who have been collared and have visited Magadi more than once, indicating their site fidelity, a preference to visit the same area over and over again, across seasons and years. Bird watchers and the Forest Department in Karnataka have been sharing details on the sightings of these collared, bar-headed geese with the Wildlife Science and Conservation Center of Mongolia for over a decade. Tagging systems also continue to give never-before-seen insights into the movements of these migratory birds. Along the banks of the reservoirs, farmers make good use of the available moisture. The waders find a great source of food in these cultivated lands. Among this carpet of small pratincoles is one special visitor, the Oriental pratincoal. A recent satellite tracking project has revealed for the first time that this species flew from northwestern Australia, crossing Java and South China Sea, flying over Thailand and across the Bay of Bengal to land in Odisha, moving to breed here in Bagalkot in Karnataka, before returning to its home in Australia, covering a total round trip of over 14,000 kilometers. This is the first ever recorded instance of an Oriental pratincoal flying all the way to India to breed. Tags and satellite tracking methods help gather information that can be used to study migration, mortality, identification of key feeding grounds, and how long the birds take to travel. These are the first steps towards the conservation of these birds and the wetlands that they choose to migrate to year after year. The need for conscious conservation also arises because there are several threats to the resident and visiting birds, like the nests and eggs being trampled by livestock, hunting by feral dogs, untreated sewage and dumping of unsegregated garbage, harmful pesticides and chemicals from farms, industries polluting the wetlands, development of lakes into parks, and encroachments that are taking away the last of the wetlands. Identifying these wetlands as important sites for migration, the Karnataka Forest Department and local authorities are stepping up to conserve them as avian hotspots and important bird areas. The Forest Department has also proposed that several of these wetlands be named as Ramsar sites, giving them international recognition. Asian midwinter waterfowl census, bird atlas and bird surveys happen as a collaborative effort between the Forest Department, experts and bird watching enthusiasts. Mundane water bodies serve an important function of recharging groundwater, a limited yet key resource needed for human development and sustenance. Wetlands act as checks against minor floods and store large quantities of water during monsoon. By saving some of the last refuges of these resident and migratory birds, we are, in a way, saving ourselves and the world around us.